Hey everyone, welcome to Be Our Guest, our weekly virtual happy hour with industry professionals. I am Janki, Artistic Director of Live and in Color. We are an artist-serving organization dedicated to developing new stage works that promote and celebrate diversity. We still have a significant amount of money to raise before our developmental retreat in September, so please consider making a tax-deductible donation today at liveandincolor.org. All donations go towards supporting our artists in the creation of groundbreaking and inclusive new work. Now, grab your cocktail or drink and start leaving questions for our wonderful guest in the comments. Please welcome an amazing actor. He has appeared in shows such as the Public's Othello, as well as Broadway's Lion King, La Cage aux Folles, off-Broadway's Sweeney Todd, and where I met him on tour with Miss Saigon, and many, many, many other shows. I'm so happy to welcome my friend and colleague, Thom Sesma.
Woo-woo!
Hello, my friend. Cheers.
Hi,
Welcome.
friend. How are you? Friend and neighbor,
great.
too.
I am so happy to see you.
It's always a thrill to see you, but this is very, very special. I love your show. It's so good. The quality of the show is so good, and what it stands for is so good too. Because are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay, I'm sorry. Something just came in. I just have to turn off my notifications right now. I was in the middle of saying something absolutely brilliant, and I'm actually going to forget what that was. Let me see. Where is notifications? There we are. Okay. Okay, now I can come back to you. I'm so sorry about that.
No problem.
It isn't just a good show. It represents a vision, not just of the business, but of what our world should be. Right? And that's I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking, what sets apart a really, really great show, a great play, a great musical, a great movie, from just a good one. And there are lots of good ones. That's not taking anything away from them, but it's that they have a vision of the world that they want to see. And it's not just an entertainment, and it doesn't have to be polemical. It doesn't have to be preachy. It's just something that you learn and something that you take away with. That's why great works of art reverberate within you, because they tell you something new about the world.
You're gonna make me. You're making me verklempt. We have such a long history, and I'm just so happy you're on the show. And I think of this show, and indeed the work we do as Live and in Color, as just an opportunity to show off my brilliant colleagues and friends like yourself, who have been such an inspiration to me and so many people. I want to first start out by saying, where is home for you originally? You live in New York, I know, but where?
I grew up in San Diego. I was born in Japan. My dad was in the Navy. My mom was a Japanese national, and my dad was Spanish Basque. And but he was stationed predominantly in the Pacific Theater. So isn't that interesting? They called it the theater, the tour of duty, where he was. And so he settled us down in San Diego because he didn't really want us to have that nomadic military life. And so they bought a house, which my younger brother still lives in. And we grew up in the neighborhood of Serra Mesa in San Diego, where I stayed until, through college, until I moved away to join the circus.
Yes, exactly. And speaking of joining the circus, what was the inspiration for that? What was the I guess the entry drug for you into this business as a young person?
Oh my God! Okay, the entry drug. All right, I'll answer your question is answered in two parts. The show that made me realize that I needed to do this, that I had no choice, was the original cast of Pacific Overtures. I saw it on tour in 1977, and it changed my life. I had always loved the theater, and I had always loved musicals. Certainly, my dad introduced me to those things when I was a very, very young boy, and. In San Diego, there was a local radio station on AM radio. Does anyone out there remember AM radio?
I know, right?
and I think it was KSDO, say K San Diego something. And on Sundays at 1:00, they played the Sunday Show. So somebody at that radio station also loved musicals, and they would play cast albums on Sundays. This is back in the 60s. And And if they had time, they would narrate in between the songs. If they didn't have time, if it was a long score like West Side Story, they would just play it through. And sometimes they would finish and sometimes they didn't. And that kind of introduced me to theater. But 1967, my dad said, okay, everybody get in the car. We're going to go see a show. I thought he meant see a movie. We put our ready clothes on, got in the car, drove to this place, and walked into this big auditorium where people were sitting around, in a big circle in this small round platform or stage or something. And I kept thinking, how are they going to show a movie in here? It's like, are they going to, oh, I know, they're going to drop a bunch of screens and everyone's going to see the screens from different points of view. And so I was completely puzzled, and the lights went down and they came back up, and there was a tree on stage, and there was a nun leaning against the tree. And she started to sing, "My day in the hills has come to an end, I know." The part of The Sound of Music that nobody remembers. And that was it. Bam. That was it. I was gone. It was Janet Blair
Wow.
as Maria at the Circle Arts Theater in San Diego. It was an equity house. It was an equity stock house. I Googled it the other day. Because I still can't believe that they had this thriving equity stock house in this little cow town. At that time, it was a little cow town, San Diego.
Well, sure. In the like we know in the 60s and 70s, and that was all over the country.
Yeah,
summer stock existed.
I
And
know.
then, sadly, it's the state of theater, they started dying out. But I think that's the case for a lot of people of our generation, is they got to see that show or that thing in their region that inspired them to do it.
What was yours? What was your show? I don't think I've ever asked you.
Mine was when I was 4 years old. My parents took me to Russia to see the Bolshoi Ballet, and I saw it, and that changed my life. And I still remember it. But
wow.
Yeah, we all have that thing. Growing up in your training as an actor, did you have any mentors that really encouraged you to pursue this, or people that you looked up to that really made you feel like you could do it? I know it was a tough time for people of color, especially because we really did not see a lot of ourselves. But what was it that made you sort of keep going? And
when I was young, I didn't know. I didn't really know who became an actor. I didn't really know how that happened. I had no clue. I was always singing and dancing and running around and getting in trouble, because I was just kind of hyperactive and I don't mean to say this like I'm beating myself up, just sort of hyperactive and undisciplined. But there was always some sort of performance going on in my life. And I think, frankly, I was a little bit annoying. I think everybody did as much as they possibly could to discourage me from doing that. And it wasn't until, oh my gosh. Okay. I just had an epiphany. I realized the person who did it is still an elemental person in my life. A lot of you out there know who he is. His name is Wayne Bryant. He runs Music Theater of Wichita, or he's the producing director of Music Theater of Wichita. He was in the U.S. Navy in San Diego when I was in high school, and I was doing a high school play. I did plays in high school. And we were doing You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. And the director, Father Nick Friend, at my little Catholic school, just wasn't quite getting it. It's a deceptively difficult show. It looks easy on the face of it, but it's really, really hard. And he knew something was missing. So he was a big fan of Wayne because Wayne had a cabaret act. This U.S. Navy officer, had this cabaret act in a couple of the local clubs in San Diego, and he went up to Wayne and he said, "Would you help us do this?" Why did he ask Wayne? Because Wayne did "Supper Time," the Snoopy song, in his cabaret act, and he always brought down the house. So Wayne came in, and he's the one who encouraged me. He's the one who saw something there. So we worked on this. It was great. I think it worked on me in a way that I didn't realize. But I knew that there was this process by which when you show up, you had to work hard in order to get better. I know that sounds so
No.
so
But as a young
fundamental, but
person,
a lot
there
of
is
us,
that
yeah.
point where it clicks for you, right?
Yeah, because I think for a lot of us who act, when we start out, we do it because it feels good and it kind of comes easy. We've keyed into something, right? But as soon as it becomes easy, we stop working so hard. And I think Wayne was the first person that taught me, oh no, you have to keep working hard, except it also has to be an expression of joy, an expression of love, for yourself, for the piece, for your fellow castmates. And then that was it. Show closed. Never saw Wayne again.
Well,
Cut to New York City, 1983.
That's exactly where I was going. I was
1983, 1984, whatever it was. I was walking up 8th Avenue. I had just moved to New York in August of 1983, and I was walking past 888. And I hear from a block behind me someone yelling out my name, Thom Sesma. And I turn around, and it's Wayne Bryan, who remembered me from something like 13 years before or 10 years before, whatever it was. And he was calling out my name. And he because he's that kind of guy, he just remembers these. I think he remembers everything. But it was the same sense of joy and love and appreciation and passion for what we do and what we share as performers, as theater people. He hadn't yet been appointed the artistic director of Music Theater of Wichita, but I think it was like 5 years after that, he started calling me out and asking me to do things out there. And every time I have gone there, to do this, big stock theater, working with the kids from the best conservatories in the country for 2.5 weeks, it has represented a high point in my career, or if not my career, my craft. And it has reminded me every time I've gone out there, oh yeah, this is why I became an actor. So. Okay. Long answer to your question.
No, I love it. It's great. And speaking of the work, I mean, you are one of the hardest working people I know. You're always, having been in productions with you, and also just your breadth of what you do. When you moved to New York, you made your Broadway debut in the original production of La Cage aux Folles.
Yes.
Just,
oh my God.
You just posted that picture. I love that you posted
I did post that picture. I didn't think you were going to repost it on live stream internet.
It was beautiful. Well, first of all, what was that like being part of that original? I mean, it was my dream come true. It was I was on Broadway. I had moved to New York in August. I think I got the job in January or something like that, and I couldn't believe that had happened. Ruth Gordon once said, to get ahead in this business, you have to be lucky, and if you're not lucky, get lucky. It was a combination of being in the right place at the right time and being ready, I guess. But I was so thrilled. I was young. I was green. Most of what I did every day was wrong. Maybe not on stage, but certainly in my life backstage. And I was just in awe of everyone from the pink contract sub carpenter to to the ushers, I was on Broadway. It was, I think I kept tripping over myself because I had lights in my eyes the entire time. But it was great. I worked hard. I watched people. I learned things. I didn't go to conservatory. I didn't train to be an actor. So I was making up a lot of things as I went along based on watching how people I admired work. I got to watch, I replaced Ken Ward, the late and well-loved Ken Ward. I was the first replacement in La Cage. I shared a dressing room with a young actor, now director, named Mark Waldrop, who was so kind and so smart and had such a precise eye. I learned to see things, I think, through his eyes. I watched Arthur Lawrence come in, and because he worked with the company regularly.
And he was a hard man. He was a hard man, but he taught me so much. I actually consider him sort of an unofficial mentor, though I'm sure he's probably rolling in his grave at me saying that. But most of all, I learned from George Hearn,
Yeah.
who is, I think, easily one of the kindest men and most talented men I've ever worked with. Every single night on stage with him was a masterclass. And every single night backstage was a masterclass in how to behave as a decent human.
Yeah. Oh, that's so wonderful to hear. I mean, I have a similar trajectory that I didn't really have traditional training, and I feel like my training was exactly the same way, by being with the great people and just being observing and being a sponge. So, and I mean, you know, your career from then on was incredible up till, I think, so many things recently, but one of my favorites was, of course, Sweeney Todd, which you did off Broadway, which there you are, which you were just brilliant.
Thank you, Dev. Thank you. I was very lucky and very, very proud of that production. It was, yeah, that was life-changing too.
Yeah.
Certainly craft changing too, because I had never worked in an immersive experience like that. So, but really, you know, one of the really wonderful things about this, about Sweeney Todd, was that Billy Harrigan-Tighe, Delaney Westfall, Sally Ann Triplett, Zach Pizer, and I all went in as replacements the same day. And we went in as sort of a family, and we were welcomed by this beautiful family that was inhabiting the Barrow Street Theater. But the five of us were, we have a very, very special tie because of that, because of the things we had to learn and the things we had to unlearn in order to work in that space.
Sure.
But also the thing, you know, we all have a preconceived notion about plays that we get to do if those plays have been around for a while. And Sweeney Todd is certainly one of those plays, I think, for all of us. I certainly thought I knew what it was about. I had done it once in 1995, right after I got off the road with Saigon, as a matter of fact.
I remember,
1997. And I, you know, I thought I knew, you know, it's about revenge, it's about anger, and how do you make that true? And so when they asked me to audition for it, I really wasn't interested because, number one, I saw Norm do it and I saw Hugh do it, and they were brilliant. And I said to myself, I can't work that hard. I'm too old. I can't do this anymore. And so I almost passed on it. And then I read the material. Now, mind you, I hadn't done this for, I don't know, 20 years. And I read this scene and it was completely unfamiliar to me. And it was unfamiliar to me because I had changed so much in 20 years. A lot of things had changed in my life. I had, you know, I can be honest with all of you out there. You know, I had gotten sober after a long period of self-destruction. There are always second chances, chances, and people will give them to you. You know, I had experienced grief. I had experienced great loss. I had experienced death. And as I read this material, started working on the scene, I started to realize that Sweeney Todd was completely about something other than what you see on the surface. What you see on the surface is big and loud and flashy, and it's in your face. But the secret of that show is deep, deep, deep inside. And it's about all of those things that I just mentioned. And that, I think I was really lucky because I recognized that, and that's the thing that enabled me to treat it like a brand new piece of theater, like nothing I'd ever done before, or nothing I'd ever seen before. So I'm glad that you thought it worked.
Oh my God! Of course, there
were nights when I wasn't sure, but you know, I did try to know what I was doing, or at least look what I was doing.
Well, it was thrilling. You know, it's always thrilling when you're on the stage, and you know, you have worked so much in theater, in musicals and classical theater, but you've also worked in like TV shows and operas and sitcoms. The list goes on. I mean, you've had such an eclectic career in terms of the type of work. You know, how is it for you working in all these different mediums? And you know, is that a choice? I mean, like with most actors, we kind of just take the work when it comes, but
I think I've always tried to take the work as it comes. You know, I never, every time I've made a big mistake in my life, personally or career-wise, it's when I had set myself a goal, you know, in terms of beyond the thing that I'm working on, beyond the step that I'm taking. Because, and I'm just talking about this actor, I can't speak for anyone else. My dynamic is that I'll do something like that, and then I'll set up expectations for myself, and I will either reach those expectations and be a little too self-congratulatory, or I'll be really disappointed, and that will mess me up. So I try to stay on beam and focus on what's to come, and to be grateful for what's to come, to rely on the advice of people who are much smarter than me, like my agents and my good friends, other artists that I know and admire, yourself included, Dev. You keep me on beam. And I guess that's I don't know where that term comes from, staying on beam, but that's what I try to do, from job to job to job. I wish I could do more TV and film, not because it's so artistically satisfying, but because it pays more. But it doesn't necessarily happen, so I'm not going to be disappointed, and I'm very grateful for the stuff that I get to do.
Is there something you prefer more than the other? Do you like, or
my stock answer, and it's not just a stock answer, it's absolutely true. I always prefer the thing that I'm not doing.
No.
What do they call that at a restaurant? It's it's like when you have order regret. It's like, yes. Oh yeah, I got this great like goat cheese and endive salad, and oh my God, I wanted that burger so bad. So yeah, I mean, it's like every time I do a musical, I'm thinking, God, I wish I were doing a play. Musicals are so stupid. And then it's like every time I'm doing a play, I'm thinking, I wish I would just do a musical and not be so pretentious. Like I'm just being pretentious out here.
Well, you flow so seamlessly one to the other. It's we're always happy to see you in anything you appear in, and you have been one of the busiest people I know during COVID, doing so many virtual shows, such as Stephen Sondheim's 90th birthday celebration and A Gentleman's Guide, which just came out, which was directed by our buddy Alan Maroka, who was on the show a couple of weeks ago, which was, again, a thrilling event.
Thank you so much. It was such an honor to be a part of that and to work with, and you know what it's like when our community, our AAPI community is so fantastic, filled with such talented and wonderful human beings, and we don't get the opportunity to work together all that often, or to choose to work together all that often. And we certainly don't get the opportunity to do roles or pieces like this in that way. So that was really, really exciting. And it was also exciting to work in this medium. I know a lot of people, have just been so impatient, waiting for this whole thing to get over so they can get back on stage. I was kind of excited by the fact that over the last 16 months, we have been discovering this new medium and what it can do. It's not film, it's not theater, it's not TV. It's something different, it's something new. And it requires a new set of skills that you have to be available to, and you have to be willing to play with in order to make it work. Is it perfect now? Does it work now? Not entirely. Are there projects that come up that make it seem like it could be possible? Yeah, I think G-Glam was one of those things. I mean, I watched it, I was floored. Alan brought a sense of invention and a wit and the word, I love this word, and insouciance to it, kind of a silly joyousness, to it that was, write that one down, insouciance, to it that kind of went along. It was so colloquial. It went along with the material. It went along with the idea that you're sitting here watching a screen, and it constantly broke rules. It constantly was in the process of making something new. And that was really, really cool. That kept my spirit going. Things like that for the entire year that we were all shut up. And consequently, it worked so well. I became so passionate about it that I actually started teaching an online course on how to act for Zoom. And I developed a nice little following of students that wanted to continue to work that way. And it influenced them all in ways that affected their work not on Zoom.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
noticed that my work has changed, not on Zoom, in things that I've done around the room with other people, you know, in a living room or a small studio of dear vaccinated friends. Um, it's a new frontier out there.
Yeah.
My biggest apprehension is that somebody much smarter than all of us is going to figure out a way to make this profitable, and it's going to explode. And if we're not into it, we're going to be we're going to be too late.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's here to stay in some way, in some fashion or other. So, you know, I totally agree with you. I feel like as frustrating as it's been, it's also been very eye-opening, and you know, taught us old dogs new tricks. You know.
Yes, exactly. Well, one of the great things about it is that it has given people who have usually been pushed to the sidelines a new forum to find an audience. Theater in color.
Yeah.
Diverse artists, you know,
Yeah.
an America that as it really is, not as it's presented traditionally.
Well, that's actually a perfect segue for me right now, because our mission at Live and in Color is to connect diverse communities to create new stage works.
Right.
We ask this of all our guests, but what does having a diverse working environment mean to you?
Safety. You know, I know that safety, security, in the sense, a sense of reaffirmation that I guess the apt word for the age is belong. That we're reminded that we belong, and we're telling other people that they belong as well. I think that that's it more than anything else. When you can learn that, I think it's so. I was going to say counterintuitive, and I only said that because my mom was Japanese, my dad was a dark-skinned Hispanic. I was raised as a white person. You know, I have enjoyed the privilege that a lot of white people have, and those times that I've been most surprised and probably most crushed is when I've been awakened to the fact that that was a misapprehension on my part. That I was getting away with something that didn't really exist, and that you know, I was sort of put in my place. I experienced that a lot in the business. You know, but I kept showing up and kept showing up, and I kept having opportunities that I created for myself, and I had to remind myself that that those opportunities were, you know, I don't want to use such a cliche as pulling myself up by my bootstraps, but I did. I worked hard. I knew that if I was going to go in and get something as an actor of color, that I had to be the hardest working person in the room, that I had to present myself as the best person in the room, and that if I didn't get a job, it had nothing to do with me. It had to do with the problem on the other end, and that I wasn't just doing it for me, I was carrying other people with me. So if we're all carrying other people with us, and we're all on stage in a diverse, colorblind world, a world as it should be, then we're all safe. Then we're all creating a secure world for all of us. You know, I think that, does that make any sense? I'm not sure that it does.
Absolutely. You know, speaking of the problem behind the table, how do you think we as a community can continue to create more opportunities for us, for BiPOC artists? What are some of the steps? I mean, you know, this is the big topic of conversation right now, but
you know what, I think, honestly, I have said this for years. I think our biggest problem is that we're conditioned to do this as actors anyway. Yeah. Whether we're white or whether diverse, but it's particularly harder for us as a diverse community to, when we do this, we ask for permission to work constantly, and we wait for permission to work. And when that permission doesn't come, we shut down instead of creating our own. This is the exciting thing that has happened over the last 16 months, is that things like Live and in Color, smaller organizations of Black artists, of Hispanic artists, of Latinx artists, of Asian artists have created small groups doing original work specifically tailored for live stream, which lead to other things. Work that has to do with current events, or work that doesn't have to do with current events, work that takes traditionally done productions like Gentleman's Guide for Love and Murder and filling it with color. Nobody waited for permission to do these things. We just decided to do them. That's what gives us agency. That's what will make a difference in the world. When we ask for permission to work, we're basically asking, and this is going to sound harsh, we're basically asking to be tolerated. Mm-hmm. One thing I love about this new young generation of AAP artists that I've been lucky enough to work with over the last few years is that they don't think in those terms. They realize that the possibilities, based on battles that my generation fought, that the possibility that these doors can open, these walls can break down. They approach things, it's going to sound negative, but it's not. They approach things with a sense of entitlement. We use that word a lot when we're criticizing people. Oh, he's so entitled. Oh, she's so entitled. I don't mean that at all. They're entitled in the sense that deep down inside, they believe correctly that they belong here. Mm-hmm. My generation, I think we always struggled with the idea that we belong here.
Yeah.
And that was the battle we were fighting. So this younger generation is here. They're here to stay. And my God, they are phenomenal. They are phenomenal.
So true.
You can say, and I know it's been the topic of conversation a lot, whether the show that we met on and the show that I know both of us love very, very much, Miss Saigon, is a highly problematic show.
Yeah.
And you can deconstruct it until you're blue in the face. There's a lot of problems with Miss Saigon, but you know what? I'm going to focus on this young generation of amazing AAP artists, AAPI musical theater artists that grew out of that came out of that, mm-hmm. that are here to stay. That was a training ground for a great generation of talent.
Absolutely. I mean, I say that all the time. Like, that was the first show that really empowered us all in many ways as, actors or artists. So I completely agree with you that for us who did it, it was of its time and served its purpose. And mm-hmm. hopefully there will be lots more to come beyond Miss Saigon.
Yeah. Well, the other great thing about what's going on right now is that there are so many diverse, so many writers and composers and lyricists and directors of diverse backgrounds. And people are finally paying attention to them too.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I think we have some questions from our viewers. Allie says, was there a show you saw that changed your life?
Oh my gosh, Allie.
The
Sound of Music. So many shows. I think that's because, they say a person's life physiologically changes every 7 years. I think a person's attitude towards the arts does too. Fundamentally, I'll get back to the beginning. Sound of Music and Pacific Overtures were the elemental shows that changed my life in so many ways. But there are so many other things that changed the way I view work, the kind of work that I wanted to do. I saw Raul Julia do Nine and Othello within the same 3 or 4 year period, and that gave me a new vision of the world of acting. That was life-changing in its own way. Working with George Hearn every single night was life-changing in its own way. You know what changed my life? Hamilton, for lots of different reasons I can't even articulate. Is it a perfect show? Could be. I don't care. I had a great time. But I knew that it affected me very, very deeply. It shattered me to the core, and it made me reassess things.
That's what theater can do. Let's take another question. Amanda says, if you could play any role, what would you choose?
Oh my God, Amanda. Okay. I used to say this as a stock answer because it usually ended the conversation because I'm uncomfortable talking about things like this, bucket lists and stuff. But I realize now that I mean it. Every dream role is usually the one that I'm doing, because that forces me to be happiest doing what I'm doing on a daily basis. There are a couple roles that I thought somebody might ask me this question today. I've gotten to do The Engineer. I've gotten to do Sweeney Todd. I got to do Andrews and Titanic. I got to do all of these different things, Scar and The Lion King. All these villains. Isn't that interesting? Same guy, different dress. Here's one. I would love to play Georges in La Cage. I don't know if anyone's going to do La Cage anymore. It's an interesting.
I know you'd be.
Yeah.
Oh.
But that one just occurred to me recently. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be amazing in that.
There's a couple Shakespearean roles that I'd love to do. A couple classic American roles from the classical American theater that I'd love to do. But
you're an amazing villain, Hillary says. Let's take another question. I'd love to see you in La Cage. Yeah, me too, Carolyn.
Hi, Carolyn. Oh, it's so nice to hear
Emma
from you.
says, what is it like traveling so much for work and being away from family?
I absolutely hate it. I used to love it. I absolutely hate it now. I'm kind of an old bunny, so I don't have to do that much anymore. And I've been very, very fortunate over the last 5 years to pretty much work in the New York area. But so it's actually harder for me to to pick up and go, because I'm just so I'm comfortable in my house with my books and my I've got all the channels on my TV, and you have to learn how to use a new remote whenever you go to actor housing, right? But I will say, once you're on the road, when you're at work, you forget all those things, because the work is the really important thing. I do love being on tour because I love seeing the country. It's really neat. And when you're in a great company, and I have to tell you all, if you can get in a company like the Engineer Company at the second national tour of the original production of Miss Saigon, it'll spoil you. It'll spoil you.
We had a lot of fun. Yeah. Let's take one last question, Thom. Oh, what's your go-to karaoke song?
Oh my God. Okay. I am the worst karaoke person, because I get really, really self-conscious up there. Because why? Because usually I go to karaoke with a bunch of Filipinas. So and they're the gold medal champions of the karaoke Olympics. So I usually feel really stupid when I get up there. So I'll always try to pick something that's just. There is this incredible David Byrne Talking Heads song called "And She Was."
Oh,
and it's a perfect pub song because it has a refrain that everybody can join in on. And I like to sing that because I like to get everybody involved in my karaoke.
Oh, that's so great. I want to hear you sing that song sometime. We'll have to go to Koreatown or something sometime. Thom, we are out of time. So, I'm so happy to be chatting with you. Before we go, please, for our viewers, please consider supporting our organization by going to liveandincolor.org to donate. Every donation, no matter what the size, helps to provide resources to artists to create groundbreaking new work. Join us next week when we chat with director, actor, and professor at NYU Tisch School for the Arts, Shanga Parker. It's going to be an amazing conversation. To see more episodes of Be Our Guest, please make sure to like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube. Thom, thank you for joining me. I'm so happy to see you. I just so look up to you, and you're such an inspiration to me.
Oh, thank you. That means so much, Dave.
Would you lead us in a little toast as we say goodbye?
I will. To the future. To a future free from hatred, division, to a future filled with joy, love, really good theater, and to the young generation of diverse artists of color and spirit who are going to lead the way and make the world better for all of us. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
It's time to